From the dusty plains of West Texas to the hallowed halls of the White House, the story of George W. Bush is a quintessential American saga. It's a narrative laced with privilege and redemption, ambition and self-doubt, a journey from a playful, sometimes wayward youth to the most powerful office in the world. This is the story of a man who, often underestimated, rose to command on the world stage, a tale marked by seismic shifts and enduring controversies. George Walker Bush, born in 1946 in New Haven, Connecticut, was no ordinary child. He was born into a political dynasty. His father, George H. W. Bush, was already laying the foundation for a career that would lead him to the vice presidency and ultimately, the presidency. Young George was aware of this lineage, a weight and a privilege woven into the very fabric of his being. The Bush family soon migrated to Midland, Texas, a boomtown fueled by oil and ambition. Midland was a crucible of conservative values, self-reliance, and a belief in the American dream. It was here, amidst the derricks and vast open skies, that George W. Bush's character began to take shape. He was a mischievous boy, full of energy and a natural leader, often found at the center of playful chaos. He was a charismatic charmer, able to connect with people from all walks of life, a trait that would prove invaluable later in his political career. Yet, beneath the surface of this boisterous youth, there were glimpses of a young man grappling with expectations. He was often compared to his accomplished father, a constant reminder of the bar he was expected to clear. Was he destined to follow in his father's footsteps? Did he even want to? These questions, unspoken and perhaps unacknowledged, simmered beneath the surface. His schooling at Phillips Academy in Andover, Massachusetts, was a stark contrast to the familiar landscape of Texas. He felt like a fish out of water, surrounded by intellectual elites. He wasn't an academic star, but he excelled in sports and leadership roles, channeling his energy into activities that allowed him to connect with his peers. He was a natural connector, a bridge builder, able to forge alliances and navigate social complexities. This ability to connect, to charm, would become a cornerstone of his political success. The late 1960s and early 1970s were a turbulent time in American history. The Vietnam War raged, social unrest simmered, and the cultural landscape was undergoing a radical transformation. For George W. Bush, these were years of searching, a period of drift and self-discovery. He graduated from Yale University with a history degree in 1968, but his academic record was unremarkable. He then joined the Texas Air National Guard, a decision that would later be scrutinized. The shadow of the Vietnam War loomed large, and questions arose about whether his family connections had helped him secure a spot in the Guard, shielding him from active combat duty. After his service, he enrolled at Harvard Business School, earning an MBA in 1975. However, the structured environment of the business world didn't quite ignite his passion. He returned to Midland, drawn back to the familiar landscape and the promise of striking it rich in the oil business. His early forays into the oil industry were marked by both successes and setbacks. He formed Arbusto Energy, later Bush Exploration, but the company struggled to stay afloat. He faced the realities of the business world, the boom and bust cycles, the intense competition, and the ever-present risk of failure. These experiences, though challenging, shaped his understanding of the business world and instilled in him a resilience that would serve him well in the years to come. During this period, Bush battled a drinking problem. It was a hidden struggle, a dark cloud that threatened to derail his life. His wife, Laura Welch, whom he married in 1977, played a pivotal role in his recovery. Her quiet strength and unwavering support helped him confront his demons and embrace sobriety. 1986 marked a turning point. He quit drinking, embraced a renewed sense of purpose, and began to focus on his family and his future. He had faced his personal demons and emerged stronger, more determined, and more grounded. Was this the catalyst that would propel him towards his destiny? The late 1980s saw a shift in George W. Bush's priorities. He became actively involved in his father's presidential campaign in 1988, honing his political skills and developing a deeper understanding of the intricacies of campaigning. He learned from the best, witnessing firsthand the strategies and tactics required to win on the national stage. In 1989, he co-purchased the Texas Rangers baseball team. This venture proved to be remarkably successful, both financially and in terms of public perception. He transformed the struggling franchise into a winning team and became a beloved figure in Texas. Owning the Rangers gave him valuable experience in managing a large organization, dealing with public scrutiny, and cultivating relationships with stakeholders. It was a proving ground for his leadership skills, a platform that allowed him to showcase his ability to connect with people and build consensus. The baseball field became his political training ground. He mingled with fans, learned their concerns, and refined his message. He became one of them, the approachable owner who understood the passion and loyalty of the Texas faithful. This connection with the common man would be a defining characteristic of his political career. In 1994, against considerable odds, George W. Bush challenged Ann Richards, the charismatic incumbent governor of Texas. It was a David versus Goliath battle, a clash between a well-established political icon and a challenger who was still relatively unknown on the statewide stage. Bush ran a disciplined campaign, focusing on issues that resonated with Texas voters: education reform, crime reduction, and limited government. He portrayed himself as a pragmatic conservative, a leader who could unite the state and deliver results. He contrasted his approach with Richards' more liberal policies, appealing to the state's conservative base. He tapped into a deep well of frustration with the status quo, offering a message of hope and opportunity. He emphasized his commitment to improving schools, reducing crime, and creating a more business-friendly environment. His campaign was a masterful blend of policy substance and populist appeal. The debates between Bush and Richards were highly anticipated. Bush held his own, demonstrating a command of the issues and a calm, confident demeanor. He didn't try to outshine Richards' wit or charisma. Instead, he focused on presenting a clear and consistent message of change. In a stunning upset, George W. Bush defeated Ann Richards, becoming the 46th governor of Texas. His victory signaled a shift in the political landscape, a resurgence of Republican power in the Lone Star State. He had proven his mettle, silencing the doubters and establishing himself as a force to be reckoned with. He had emerged from his father's shadow and carved his own path. But was this the ultimate destination, or merely a stepping stone to something greater? As governor of Texas, George W. Bush focused on a limited set of priorities: education reform, tort reform, and tax cuts. He worked closely with the Democratic-controlled legislature, forging compromises and building coalitions to achieve his goals. He demonstrated a pragmatic approach to governing, prioritizing results over ideological purity. His signature education initiative, known as No Child Left Behind, aimed to improve schools and hold them accountable for student achievement. It emphasized standardized testing and accountability measures, reflecting his belief in the importance of rigorous academic standards. The program was controversial, but it garnered national attention and positioned Bush as a leading advocate for education reform. He also championed tort reform, seeking to limit the amount of money that could be awarded in lawsuits. He argued that excessive litigation was stifling economic growth and driving up costs for businesses. His efforts to reform the legal system were met with resistance from trial lawyers but were ultimately successful in enacting significant changes. Bush's focus on tax cuts appealed to the state's conservative base and solidified his reputation as a pro-business governor. He argued that lower taxes would stimulate economic growth and create jobs. He successfully pushed for tax cuts that benefited both individuals and businesses. His governorship was characterized by a collaborative approach, a willingness to work across party lines to achieve common goals. He built strong relationships with Democratic leaders, including Lieutenant Governor Bob Bullock, demonstrating a capacity for pragmatism and compromise. He also used the governorship as a platform to build his national profile. He traveled extensively, speaking at Republican events and meeting with influential figures in the party. He cultivated relationships with donors and activists, laying the groundwork for a potential presidential run. By the end of his term, George W. Bush had established himself as a leading figure in the Republican Party. He had a proven track record of accomplishment as governor, a compelling personal story, and a growing network of supporters. The stage was set for his entry into the national political arena. He had proven himself a capable leader in Texas. Could he translate that success onto the grandest stage of all? The 2000 presidential election was one of the closest and most contentious in American history. George W. Bush faced Vice President Al Gore, a seasoned politician with a reputation for intellectual rigor and policy expertise. The campaign was a battle of ideologies, personalities, and strategies. Bush ran on a platform of compassionate conservatism, promising to unite the country and restore integrity to the White House. He emphasized his experience as governor of Texas, highlighting his record on education reform, tax cuts, and crime reduction. Gore, on the other hand, emphasized his experience as vice president, arguing that he was the best qualified to lead the country in the 21st century. He focused on issues such as healthcare, Social Security, and the environment. The debates between Bush and Gore were closely watched. Bush held his own, projecting an image of confidence and leadership. He effectively countered Gore's attacks, portraying him as an out-of-touch Washington insider. The election results were incredibly close, with the outcome hinging on the state of Florida. The vote count was so tight that a recount was ordered. The recount process was fraught with controversy, as both campaigns battled over ballot irregularities and legal challenges. After weeks of legal wrangling, the Supreme Court ultimately intervened, halting the recount and effectively declaring George W. Bush the winner of the election. The decision was highly controversial, with Democrats accusing the court of partisan bias. Bush's victory was narrow and contested, leaving the nation deeply divided. He entered the White House with a mandate that was far from clear, facing a Congress that was closely divided and a public that was skeptical of his legitimacy. The path ahead was fraught with challenges, and the weight of the presidency settled heavily upon his shoulders. He had won the ultimate prize, but at what cost to the nation's unity? The first 8 months of George W. Bush's presidency were relatively uneventful. He focused on implementing his domestic agenda, pushing for tax cuts and education reform. He sought to project an image of competence and stability, reassuring the nation after the tumultuous election. Then, on September 11, 2001, the world changed. Terrorists attacked the United States, striking the World Trade Center in New York City and the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. The attacks shook the nation to its core, leaving Americans feeling vulnerable and afraid. In the wake of the attacks, George W. Bush emerged as a wartime president. He vowed to hunt down the terrorists responsible for the attacks and to protect the American people from future threats. He declared a war on terror, launching military operations in Afghanistan and Iraq. The decision to invade Iraq was particularly controversial. Bush argued that Saddam Hussein possessed weapons of mass destruction and posed an imminent threat to the United States. However, the intelligence supporting these claims was later called into question. The wars in Afghanistan and Iraq dominated Bush's presidency. The wars were costly in terms of both lives and resources, and they became increasingly unpopular as the years went by. Bush faced criticism for his handling of the wars, as well as for his administration's use of interrogation techniques that were widely condemned as torture. Despite the challenges, Bush remained resolute in his commitment to fighting terrorism. He strengthened security measures at home, creating the Department of Homeland Security. He also worked to build alliances with other countries to combat terrorism around the world. In the final months of his presidency, the United States faced another major crisis, the financial collapse of 2008. The collapse triggered a global recession, and Bush faced criticism for his administration's handling of the crisis. He authorized a massive bailout of the financial industry, a decision that was highly unpopular with both Republicans and Democrats. George W. Bush left office in January 2009, his approval ratings at historic lows. His presidency was marked by controversy and division, but it was also a period of profound change and transformation. He had led the nation through some of its darkest hours, making decisions that would shape the course of American history for years to come. He had entered the White House a somewhat untested leader. He left it a figure forever etched in the annals of history, a president defined by crisis and controversy. George W. Bush's journey from Midland, Texas, to the White House is a testament to the enduring power of ambition, resilience, and the American dream. He was a man of contradictions, a privileged son who connected with the common man, a sometimes flawed individual who rose to meet extraordinary challenges. His legacy remains a subject of intense debate. Some praise him for his leadership in the wake of 9/11, his commitment to fighting terrorism, and his efforts to promote freedom and democracy around the world. Others criticize him for his decision to invade Iraq, his handling of the financial crisis, and his policies that they say exacerbated inequality and damaged the environment. Regardless of one's perspective, it is undeniable that George W. Bush's presidency had a profound impact on the United States and the world. He was a president who made consequential decisions, who shaped the course of history, and who left an indelible mark on the American psyche. His story is a reminder that even the most seemingly ordinary individuals can rise to extraordinary heights, and that leadership is often forged in the crucible of crisis. Was his journey a triumph of the American spirit, or a cautionary tale of power and its consequences? That question, perhaps, will continue to be debated for generations to come.